My name is Christian Basel. Years ago, I had an idea. I got myself a TARDIS. Took it to new places, met a lot of new people, took some great pictures, and talked Doctor Who. From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hanging With web show, this is the legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Join me on my latest adventures and become part of the legend. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basel. I'm the host of this show, and we're excited because we are going to be reviewing Ascension of the Cybermen, which is the first part of a two-parter that is going to be the series finale for Series 12. And we're just excited because a lot to unpack about this episode. A lot that's been going on. Lots of rumors going around, and it's just non-stop craziness there. My name, again, is Christian Basel. I'm the host of this show, and with me today are my co-producer, Melanie Dean. How you doing, Melanie?
Doing quite well. Hello, everybody. Glad to be on, and especially since I missed the last episode because my power went out.
I know.
And the haunting was so amazing.
Somebody didn't want you to be on.
I was so mad. I was like, no, I want to talk about this one.
It's okay. It was just us
as
guys.
she gurgled into the microphone. Okay, shutting up.
It was just us boys doing the review last week. So, yes, we're going to be doing Ascension of the Cybermen. Coming up also is Mackenzie Flohr, author of the Right of Wand series. Mackenzie, how you doing? Oh, she's putting up her cat.
I'm doing well, and that was pause.
And we also have YouTube's Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Burress. How you doing there, Brian?
Oh, pretty good. How's everybody out there tonight?
No, it's great. Just great. I'm really excited about The Timeless Child, which is the next episode in the series finale for Series 12. And I'm also concerned about Series 13, 14 that are coming up. I guess they've already signed up, and Chris and Jodie are already on it there. I also want to introduce before we get to the Who Knew News, I want to introduce our sponsor for the Who Knew News this week. It is UFO Con in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be taking place April 11th through the 12th at the Hyatt Regency Orlando International Airport, which is inside the airport. So, gang, just be prepared because this is going to be an awesome, awesome time. This is going to be the first time I've been there with the team. And they have special guests, Melissa Kennedy, who runs UFO Con, and also she also runs a show called the UFO Women. I'll get that right there, the UFO Women. Got to be checking that out. Also, if you're a Ghost Hunter fan, Grant Wilson will be there from Ghost Hunter. He will be there as well. Now, if you haven't purchased your tickets of it yet, this is the time. This is a cool thing for you. Up until March 1st. You can get discounted tickets. You can get $30 off of your tickets for UFO Con. All you have to do is use the keyword TARDIS. Well, I was expecting a little more than that.
I was on mute. I'm like, oh, what people are going to see on the YouTube. Slapping into nothing going.
No problem. You can use keyword TARDIS. Also, we provided a link to the event, which will automatically give you the discounted code. But if you decide you just want to go to the website and pull it up, you can use the keyword TARDIS there. Again, that's going to be April 11th through the 12th at the Hyatt Regency Orlando International Airport. For those of you also just joining us on the YouTube channel watching this, please make sure you're hitting the subscribe button and that little bell so you get the notifications every time we drop a new episode and when we do our live chat episodes where you get to talk to us while the episode's running there. You can tell I had a little bit of a conversation on our last episode with a gentleman. I forgot his name. I wish I had it down there, but it was kind of cool. Yeah, keyword TARDIS. But he just had a few questions before he left, and it was really nice to be talking to people who watch us on the YouTube channel there. But before we begin our review, we have Dr. Freedom with the Who Knew News. Take it away, Dr. Freedom.
Okay, good evening, everyone. A quarter over here on the Hollywood Reporter, we have BBC as quote unquote the primary incubator. Incubator. Now you got me. The primary incubator of storytelling talent in the UK. Now this is Piers Wenger, who's speaking, and he's also unveiled some new shows and whatnot. But also one of the big concerns he does address in this particular article is Winger was asked about the quote-unquote declining ratings for Doctor Who and whether that could lead to the BBC drama giving it a rest. He said, quote, I produced it for many years. I don't think it has been in better health editorially. I think it's fantastic. It's an incredibly important show for young audiences, still watched by families in a world where there are fewer and fewer shows that have the power to do that. So it will always be an important show for us. His conclusion, I think we are a very long way away from wanting to rest it, end quote. So that's his official verdict from Piers Wanger on this whole situation.
Now, and I have a question about this. I'm just hearing this off the cuff because I don't know. I know a little bit about the licensing in the BBC and all that. What is it? I'm hearing people saying that the BBC is losing its licensing or something like that, or am I getting that wrong?
Word is that the license thing, I think, goes up for review again. A lot of people seem to be living under this delusion that because you can get like streaming services that are about the same price, that, why don't the BBC do that? But as I think RTD brought up even earlier this year, he goes, yeah, look, you've got this HBO streaming service. So you've got no news, no local programming, no original programming, no radio, and meanwhile, you're paying X number of dollars for that streaming service. Yet people seem to think that if you pay that much for the BBC, you're going to get the same thing if it goes streaming only. So that's been the big thing is, they're trying to decide whether to keep the licensing fee thing going or giving that a rest and going to a different system. But I really hope they don't, because BBC has provided us so much great programming for the last God knows how many years that in order to do that, I think it would take away from it and they'd end up losing a ton of money. In the end, it'll just kill the quality of it altogether.
No, I just want to throw that out there because I remember seeing, strangely enough, Sesame Street on HBO now. It's on the HBO Family, but you have to pay for that. You had to pay for HBO to be on there. What would you think if the BBC became a commercial entity? If it became a company that put commercials in place now, it became something like what we have in the U.S. Do you think the quality would go down, or do you think they might try to find a way around it?
Well, then in that case, you're pandering to sponsors, which is something the BBC's never had to do. So instead of some of the quality programming you have out there, I don't think a lot of the modern day sponsors would go for it. And so in the end, you're going to lose something, even if you go that route.
So you don't have to, with sponsors, you have to answer to sponsors like we do. We have to make sure we keep up with appearances and such like that. But it could lose the artistic value. It could go down in quality because now we have this, and plus we've got to put commercials in between the shows now. Which, as much as I appreciate that somebody's paying to the BBC to have Doctor Who on BBC America, yeah, those commercials are lengthy. I think in some cases they're longer than the actual scene that we're watching. It'll be like a scene of 7 minutes, but a commercial run of 10 minutes on BBC America. Again, I appreciate it, but I'm just like. That's why I put it on the DVR, so I can actually go fast forward those commercials every now and then. Brian, what else do we got on the news?
Okay, over on Entertainment Weekly, we have Doctor Who star Sacha Dhawan teases "quote-unquote" an incredibly emotional season finale. According to him, this is what he said. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I'm not even sure if I'm right for this, he told Entertainment Weekly. He goes, and Matt Stevens was like, no, of course you're ready for it. And they were like, don't worry, turn up on the day and do your thing. And he goes, no, I can't do that. So he was really nervous about even trying to take on this role, is what they're trying to push in this article.
Right.
And he eventually just, muscled up, pushed on through it. And, it's just, I think he's done an amazing job myself. So I don't know.
No, I think in general, everybody likes him as the master. I think everybody just had a little quorum. There's like, I think they brought the master back a little bit too soon, but there's no doubt he is a good master. So I think that's the give and take there. Is everybody in agreement with that, or do you have your own take as far as Sacha taking over as the master? I think that was the only concern. I think he just came in a little too soon.
I think sorry.
It's okay. You probably just thought
I just think after such a riveting performance with Michelle Gomez, I think it's a little too soon.
Yeah.
I do agree with you wholeheartedly that he is a brilliant master. His portrayal is very fun, very classic Who, but I think it's just very, very soon, because even that was my first reaction, that, call me master, it just was, I just think it's just too soon.
Gotcha there. Mackenzie?
I didn't think necessarily it was too soon. I think it's more of the case of he has retorted back to how the master was originally. So the fans are more concerned about that everything that Missy went through has been invalidated, which I don't think has happened. I think there's a lot bigger picture explanation, and we're going to find out exactly what that is in the next episode. It's just that more people were taken back because of how Sasha's master is so much like the original.
Yeah, it was. What I'm saying is it was kind of a scary feature. And I mentioned that in one of the previous episodes. It's kind of like bringing Ianto back. It's like, you better have a damn good reason and a damn good story to back it up. Otherwise, you just cheapen that scene in Children of Earth. And it's like, if you're going to bring the Master back, it better be. And it worked. But again, I felt like at that moment, it's like, Missy. It just felt like that whole ride, that whole thing, she's trying to be a better person, got cheapened. Or was that something, maybe that was something that was built into the Master that Missy was trying to do because, she did beat him up. She did beat up the Doctor with her other self. So anyway, moving on, Brian, what else we got in the news?
Okay, and sorry to end on a sad note, but the co-founder of the very first Star Trek convention, Elise Rosenstein, passed away earlier this week. She was 69 years old. She was undergoing rehabilitation for a broken leg when apparently she suddenly passed away. Jeez. Now with Joyce Yasner, Joan Winston, Linda Deneroff, and Devra Langsam, she organized the very first Star Trek convention held in New York in 1972. This convention was not only the very first media convention, it was also the biggest science fiction convention to date by a very considerable margin. So sadly, yes, Elise has passed away and left us at the age of 69.
Rest in peace. I have nothing else to say. I don't know much about
I know.
her.
I hate to end on a down note, but a lot of us sci-fi people out there, this really set the precedent rolling for, fan conventions and things like that. So.
No, absolutely. Because considering a lot of convention these days, matter what, even if it's sci-fi or brony cons or any other type of fan-driven genre, really everything kind of goes back into those pages of what Star Trek conventions were, because that was really the first time a confluence of people came together to celebrate a television or anything else in the pop culture media. So really, a lot of those points that a lot of the things that you do today really did get that little nick of inspiration from what she and the other co-founders did to really, for us to have those SDCCs and to have the MCMs and all that kind of fun.
So she was the precursor of what we have right now as far as the convention geekdom world all over internationally, all over the world there. So thank you for your contributions. I mean, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be having fun out there right now. And I'm glad over time that it's expanded to other geekdoms, into the DC universe and the Marvel and to the WHOniverse, everything. I mean, thank you for your contribution there. And speaking of conventions, we got a commercial break. I told you I'm the worst segue ever. When we return to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, we're going to be doing our TARDIS count. 1 for being the worst episode, 10 for being the best, and they're going to give us their ratings, and then we're going to be reviewing Ascension of the Cybermen. When we return, please continue to become part of the legend.
It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper, and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop. George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo and their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good things always happen in springtime, from author Joanne Fisher on Amazon.com today.
Alien invaders enslave Earth,
Unleashing hunters into the ruin wastes.
One young survivor struggles to elude their monsters, clinging to hope.
When he's stolen off the planet by a sarcastic Starship AI, they pit their uneasy alliance against a treacherous galaxy.
Explore a whole new verse of barbarism and betrayal
Wonder and Adventure
in the Scion series,
by Michael J. Allen.
beginning with Book 1, Scion Conquered Earth.
Available in print, ebook, and audio on Amazon.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, where we're reviewing the episode Ascension of the Cybermen. My name's Christian Basel. I'm here with co-producer Melanie Dean. I'm here with the Right of Wands author Mackenzie Flohr, and I am with Dr. Freedom himself YouTube channel Brian Burress. Got to check him out there on the YouTube channel. And speaking of the YouTube, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, I should say, and hit that bell so that you get notifications of when we're putting out newest episodes. And definitely you want to check out the Hanging with Webshore, better known as the HWWS Media. You want a plethora of content all over the world. We're talking about movie reviews. We're talking about Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, if it's out there, the Geekdom, it's being represented at the HWWS Media. Make sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can get all of our content out there, including the Hanging with Webshore mothership out there. Now back to reviewing Ascension of the Cybermen. We're going to start off with Mackenzie. Mackenzie, between 1 and 10 TARDISes, 1 being 10 being How many TARDISes do you give this episode?
I gave it an 8.
Okay. Brian, what would you rate Ascension of the Cybermen?
I gotta cut the TARDIS in half.
Oh, God.
I gave it.
Why do you have to do it in that voice?
I really did. I just had to do it. I've given it a 9.5.
9.5. Melanie, how would you rate Ascension?
I am mimicking somebody else's one on here, and it doesn't involve cutting a TARDIS in half for once. I'm going with Mackenzie on an 8. It was a very solid episode.
Okay, so everybody close your eyes because for our friends on the YouTube channel, I'm going to put out my number. There you are.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Our folks on the YouTube channel, you got to see my rating, and plus we're going to start off the lowest rating, which is divided between Mackenzie and Melanie. Since Mackenzie, you gave us your rating first, tell us why you rated an 8, what was so great about it, where did it miss the marker?
For me, the reason why I got an 8 was really the story. There was 2 different stories going on, and it did not feel like they really made sense in the way that they were coming together as one. I understood big picture-wise where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seemed like, well, who's telling this past story? You could tell it was going to be the lone Cybermen, but yet you were never going into that character's actual thoughts. So it just seemed like it was a story that just kind of got thrown in there so that the audience is like, oh, this is who he is. But we got this other bigger mystery, is the son who has the ability, like Jack, to resurrect himself after he gets killed. And there's lots of this episode had more questions than it had answers on it. But I like the episode. Very solid episode. Cannot wait to the next episode.
Very, very, very excited. Very, very cool there. Melanie, you also rated it an 8.
That I did.
Ah,
I thought that I did. It was a very good episode. I honestly think that this season has finally found its groove. I think we're getting consistently good writing, consistently good acting. I'm noticing that the plots are very intricately weaved, so I'm getting a good mix of subplot and other items where they're just kind of working by the very end. Notwithstanding, this is definitely one that's good. It's a 2-parter. Had a good idea for the cliffhanger was very logical for where it ended. I liked that you kind of still had a lot of kind of a whodunit kind of feel of, well, who is this child? What is this child? I just kept calling him Clark the whole time. They ended up naming him Brandon. I was like, oh, well, there went Superman. I mean, literally looked over my husband like, see, it's Clark Kent. Ireland, it's kind of like Kansas, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to ask somebody in Britain what they think. But no, it was a very good, solid episode. I liked the effects were very good. I liked the plot. Well, I liked how at the very beginning they did a little bit of exposition theater with actors. Sometimes it works with a character, sometimes it doesn't. I thought this time with Yaz, Ryan, and Graham at the very beginning putting out their kind of stuff and saying, well, we do this, 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 this. And when they were doing their little bit of exposition, it sounded like it was coming from those characters. It didn't sound like whoever wrote each one sounded like they could have all been interchanged, like with whether or not the gold flecks are going to go in there. And I heard that I guess they're allergic to it. And with Graham going, oh well, this this what's it and this, and I guess that's going to work, And then like Yaz being a little bit more scientific and being more sure. Graham going, hooray! But yeah, I thought it really seemed that this episode, all of the characters, including the lone Cybermen, they're very they know who they are. They know what they're doing, and we get to be as audiences just listening and watching and taking everything in. And as this big little present that's going to be given to us from the BBC opens up in the next episode.
It's going to be a wild ride. And what was it that there was a quote from somebody that says you're probably going to need a drink to watch this episode? Is that going to be during or after or before the episode? What's the question? It was just like, how much impact are we going to need that this is going to drive home? Brian, you rated this a 9.5. Now, I wanted to address this because I didn't address this when we were chatting earlier. I said that the Doctor is Skynet and John Connor, meaning that she started the cyber race. She rebooted the cyber race, and then she has to stop the cyber race. So that's where I was coming up with that comment there. Just to refresh it there. You rated a 9.5, almost perfect. What was the good part, and where did it just drop a half a TARDIS?
Well, it dropped half a TARDIS with the cyber drones. And the only main reason why was while they were cool, while they were interesting, it's really, you couldn't have come up with something a little better, like maybe flying cybermats. But also the fact that I was scrolling through my, Facebook or something this week.
Yeah.
And suddenly I had a flashback to the end of this season of the Orville. The Kalons also had flying heads. So I'm like, no, I can't give you a full 10 because it seems like you kind of borrowed that idea from the Orville, where the heads pop off, become these flying killer drones. But also it reminded me a lot of the Toclafane. I don't know why. We don't know if there's actual brains in there or not.
Heads.
But other than that, it was a very well structured episode. All the background characters, the rest of the cast were brilliant in this episode. The guy who did Coach Sharmas, amazing. Once again, Ashad right on point. Just as sinister, if not a calm, toned down, even more sinister, if that applies. And that really just knocked it out of the park for me. Everybody was just amazing in this episode.
Melanie, I'm thinking since we brought up Coach Sharmas, I think the deadliest of the Cybermen is a Cyberman with emotion.
Oh, absolutely. It gives another. I mean, we've had how many episodes where the Doctor has gone against the Cybermen, and in his big, grandiose hero speech has brought up the fact of human emotion or Time Lord emotion, Gallifreyan, whatever, emotions, feelings. That's the thing that makes everything powerful. Cybermen have always been, that's what makes you weak. But in his speech is always, talking about how these feelings actually motivate you and make you a better warrior, make you more compassionate, all those kind of things. So now we have a villain that does have that. And usually in the other times, whether it was Lumic or, oh Lord, I can't remember her name, back in, the New Who earlier on, where it was the woman in the red and she was becoming a Cyberman and they ended up
the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
The huge next Doctor, and you're going to make me look it up, aren't you?
Well, she ended up having a mecha freaking Cyberman.
It's hard again. I didn't even have to look it up. It's hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they both, as they ascended to their villainy, and then the second they realized, oh, my emotions are going away, in a sense, dying. It's like they forgot that was going to be given up. It was stripped from them, and then that's when they finally became the big bad. Here we have someone that is the big bad, right, and he still has that retained, and it's just really, really intriguing because he has some of the most eloquent writing. Because I love how the Cyberman part to him is very calm and collected, and he's very sinister of sinister, honestly, to steal that from Brian. He's very, very calculated, which is, well, he's a Cyberman. He should be able to do, be more robotic in his thinking processes and being very analytic. But no, I love it. Ooh, this is fun, but it's also is that you? Are you the baby? Wait, what's going on?
Brian, were you chomping at the bit earlier? Because I heard you wanting to jump in there.
I think her name was Mercy or something like that.
Mercy Hardigan, though.
Yeah, it was a very ironic name. Yeah, given the situation.
I remember that.
I agree. Sorry.
No. It's just, well, the one when she's standing with the guys who goes, "You've never asked my first name," and she just spouts it out. It's Mercy. But I remember the doctor saying it's Mrs. Hardigan, so Mercy Hardigan. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just bringing that up there.
I just wanted to throw a quick note out there to Ray Holman, who designed the new cyber suit, even though I think the only really reused part of it was the upper part of the chest unit, and that was from the Nightmare and Silver guys. But everything else was beautiful. The horns on the shoulder pads, and if you also look very closely, they've got these spikes on the legs as well. They look very, very medieval. That's why I love it. It's like these evil, like cyber knights coming at you, man. It's just, plus the reshaping of the head back closer to the classic design. Because
yes.
If they kept rounding off the Cybermen's heads, by the time they were done, you were going to have a football with handlebars. So I'm glad they went back to that more basic head design. That just knocked my socks off right there.
Do you know what's funny? I don't know if you remember the special for the 25th anniversary for Silver Nemesis. And they had an interview with the cyber leader, who was played by David Banks, and they had to he explained how there was such an improvement from the classic series to the current day. And I just remember the only thing that's left out of these Cybermen are the Doc Martens that they had to wear in the 80s, and then and also that the cyber heads could actually snap into place, whereas used to be they had to drill in the screws, and once you were in there for a while, and they weren't going to get you out for quite some time. But yeah, just seeing old school Cybermen kind of getting mixed up in the mix. I'm hoping that just Chibnall has provided something that makes all of this come together, because Nightmare in Silver was kind of just a weird thing that Neil Gaiman wrote. It was just like, oh well, the Mondosian and the Cybus Cybermen got together and had baby Cybermen. So I'm like, okay, this is just a very weird one. Mackenzie, I'm going to ask you a question, and we're about to hit a break, but I want to leave this thought process, because what I had was, the question is, going off of what I asked Melanie, was that the danger of the Cybermen, or at least Ko Shamas, where he actually has that brain screw up with Mary Shelley, where he looks like he's convincingly going to, you see the humanity and everything of that, and that actually is thrown against Mary when he finally just turns on her and in that episode, in the Villa Dottie episode. I was just like, oh my god, that is just so painful to watch. You bass. That's what I had to say. So the question is, are emotions a weakness? When we return to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, please stay logged on, stay tuned in, and always to become part of the legend.
Now on Amazon.com, iCoin from author Jeremy Mosby. It's an alternate reality, and the leader of the planet iCoin is none other than Benjamin Franklin. When corrupt officials threaten not only iCoin but the Earth as well, an unlikely chosen one, Jeremy, must face dark foes to save the Earth and iCoin alike. Author Jeremy Mosby takes readers on a superhero's adventure through this compelling and imaginative alternate universe. Get iCoin on Amazon.com today.
Jackie Sonnenberg's My Soul to Keep is a ghost story rooted in the realities of actual cults. When 13-year-old Sky Monroe arrives at her new boarding school, all she can think about is death and connecting with the afterlife. Soon she discovers her school's spirituality group, the Guardians of Light, and they have a secret. They can speak with the dead, and the organization is a cult. But this isn't Sky's only problem. The campus house where Sky resides is haunted, and even the ghosts have an agenda. They intend on getting the souls they want. Filled with mystery and intrigue plucked straight from the headlines, author Jackie Sonnenberg's research and attention to detail give this ghost story an even more eerie atmosphere. Find My Soul to Keep on Amazon.com today.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. If you're listening to us on Krypton Radio on the premiere date, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening to us on iHeart, you're watching us on the YouTube channel, hey there, please make sure that you are subscribing, hitting the notification button, whatever you need to do to make sure that you get this content in a timely fashion. Also, please like us on our Facebook page, facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS, where we drop off all the episodes, including if you are joining us and you just, for some reason, forget, we put up the episodes on from Spotify to iTunes well, I can't say iTunes anymore, it's Apple Podcasts, but just getting used to that now there. And the question is now addressed to Mackenzie. Now we continue our review of Ascension of the Cybermen. Are emotions a weakness?
You know, that's a really good question, because growing up, I was raised with emotions make you weak. And I have to disagree with that now. I think that emotions both can be a weakness if you use your emotions in the wrong direction. If you manifest it to be, say, evil, or you make a decision that is just causes, based on emotions, that it causes, like the destruction of Gallifrey, for example, because the master has said he did that, but that's something.
Because Chibnall wrote it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But at the same time, emotions is what makes us human. We're able to, with that, we can also empathize. We can sympathize with people, relate to other people and what they're going through. So I don't necessarily think that it is a bad thing or a weakness in full. It's just more of how, whatever the situation is how you choose to react to it, which is the same thing I preach in the Ray Dewan series.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha there. Well, I'm actually asking this question of everybody. So, Melanie, are emotions a weakness?
Yes and no. I'm going to go with no. Yeah, yes and no. It depends on what emotion, at what time, during what circumstance. Honestly, that's going to be my answer. It depends on a lot of factors. It's not something that it's just one emotion blanketed. Yes, at all times this is a weakness. No, but there are times where emotions, as the colloquialism is known as, emotions can run high. That can become a weakness. Quite frankly, when people have I think any emotion going too far. It can be a weakness. So it's almost like anything and everything in moderation. If you're far too angry, enjoy the heart attack or your blood pressure. Or if you're far too sad, it's a weakness, maybe on your heart. I think it's the extremes. The extremes are a weakness, but otherwise, no.
Brian, I harken back to another geekdom, which I think is interesting that I'm bringing this up, is Star Trek. And the movie is Star Trek First Contact. And there's that fight scene that's about to take place. And Data just shuts off his emotions. He just swings his head for a second. And he shuts off his emotional chip inhibitor or whatever it's called. And Picard just stands there and goes, no, sometimes Data, I actually envy you. Because I guess, I think in the essence, emotions, for a better term, and this is not probably the best term, but it's a tool. And what I mean by that is, if used properly, it can be very good. If used improperly, like anger or something, or if it takes over, it can be used, it can be a hindrance to what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you let your emotions run you rather than you run your emotions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can lead you down some very dark paths. It can lead you down some very sad places. But if you learn to channel your emotions into something more positive, I find that it gets you past the down times. Focus on the good, not the bad.
All right.
Well, don't let negativity drag you down. Focus on the things that make you happy, the things that drive you. Find your passion. And then, so they do have their weaknesses, but for the majority, I have to say emotions are positive because it's the things that make us human in the end.
Yeah, I see. I see what you're saying there. One of the things, the reasons why I rated this, and I will honestly say I didn't rate it a 10, but I did give it a high score. I'll just leave it at that because one of the questions I wanted to bring up, Melanie's putting Coach Sharmas, he's the gatekeeper. Ashad is Cybermen. Oh, have I been saying it wrong? Oh, okay. Sorry then.
It wrong, and I think we've just been running with it. So I just wanted to let our listeners know because Christian just reads the notes. I try to be quiet about going, "Hey, FYI."
Yeah.
Or the easy way to keep track of them, we were calling Coach Sharma Space Moses.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
I was calling him Game of Thrones guy because I couldn't remember his character name, and I kept thinking, "Ooh, that animated GIF where it shows all the people from the who've been in Game of Thrones and Doctor Who." I'm like, "Oh, we can add Ian now." Sorry,
we're going to be doing that thing. We're going to see Harry Potter actors and Doctor Who actors intertwined with the series. So now I guess Game of Thrones is getting a turn now since everybody is not employed with that show at this moment there. But I guess I'm going to say this. Wow, I don't know. Right now I'm just having a brain, you know what, and for whatever reason I'm still going over the cyber heads that turned into the Orville's.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with Brian. That's what knocked mine down to an 8. I did the heads maybe just. I remember looking over again at Kevin going, they've had other cyber everything. They've had the cyber gnats. They've had, just so many different cyber things. Why is it a bunch of handles are just coming at me? And I'm going, oh, come on, guys, please. Okay. But yeah, that one I was like, But the idea of drones coming after everybody, thought that was brilliant. I, again, thought the refugees, all of them, usually typically in last season, whenever you had a cast that had a ton of people, even like in Orphan 55, when you had a ton of extra cast members, after a while, a lot of them were just red shirts. They're in the background, or they're just not fully fleshed enough for me to care. And this one, I actually did feel bad for all of the refugees. I already kind of saw that clearly there was the older brother taking care of the younger brother who had some, maybe perhaps PTSD or other developmental issues. I felt bad for him where he got scared and frightened and ran off. And then the other girl, I guess, ran off to go help him. So I'm like, I feel bad because she was trying to help. They really, in this little refugee sect, really, really kind of gelled with me because I'm like, oh, these are all real live people. They're fully realized characters, and I love the flirting between her and Graham. I thought that was amazing. I was like, Graham, you can do this. Okay, sorry. As I digress, it was one of my happy points where I just thought again that everyone had good banter, everyone clicked, even in a wartime scenario, and it made sense for Ryan to not get on the ship because of his dyspraxia, that maybe he would be the one that fell behind and couldn't get onto the ship that looked like a giant gravitron.
I thought of that too. You look like a giant gravitron.
I did. I was like, oh no, I don't want to get on that carny ride.
It reminded me of an old merry-go-round we used to have on one of the local playgrounds.
Oh my God. Anyway, getting back to the review, and like I said, the first thing I think I mentioned, I said to somebody as soon as I saw that the drones, I said I need my own handles just because the neighbors are ticking me off. I want something that just set out there and just run and chase them throughout the house.
It really came about either, so we need our handles.
we should get a story now about how handles came up to be. But anyway, I'm glad you mentioned the refugees, Melanie, because I actually had a counterpoint, and maybe I was just missing out. Like I said, I may want to. This is one of those episodes I should have just reviewed again, just watched again and again, and tried to get it, because sometimes I don't get it in the first round. I need like 2 or 3 runs to finally understand that. And the refugees, I did like the flirting with Graham. God, I just loved that. I was just like, oh, go ahead, Graham. This is your move there. I think I just wanted more backstory on the refugees so I could actually appreciate them more. And they were kind of getting thrown in. And then by the time we were kind of getting to know them well, they were getting killed off. And like the leader of the refugees was just like, okay, well, that was a great stint. That was one of the reasons why I kind of dropped my score, because I think I wanted more out of the refugees. And it's kind of been a running thing with Doctor Who, because if they do have a background character, they're red-shirted all of a sudden. Yeah, it's like you're not going to last too long on Doctor Who nowadays. But did I get that wrong? Or maybe did you guys catch something that I didn't as far as refugees? Because Melanie, you got it and I didn't.
Well, I think I knew from what it was going to be. I mean, they're under attack. They're clearly we're going to be having loss of life here. But at least that when they first arrived on the scene and the doctor had to I did appreciate the fact that they're refugees. They're not going to easily say, "Oh, I'm getting a free handout. This is awesome." You know, they were very not curious, but very cautious into just accepting her help, even though that they were under fire. And how she had to say a few times, "No, we're trying to help you. We're trying to help you," that kind of thing. And then went into like the exposition of everything. And then I liked that it failed. It blew up. It's, it's not every story should be going well. Good storytelling doesn't always go as planned or as, well executed as you would hope. That just kind of grounds it into realism. But I did like that once you did get into the ship, I understand that you're not going to have a lot of refugees going on. And at least when you had like the one kid go on with Ryan and the doctor where they went ahead and grabbed one ship. So there was at least one refugee there. And then Yaz and Graham were on with the other three. So at least you still had 4 extra characters. But I think learning back from, again, Orphan 55, when you have way too many characters and you already have 3 companions on top of the doctor, who, again, stellar episode for her. I think, and then again, now you have to go find Koshamis. You have to go and then find. I loved how they were like, it's a person. It's not a place. It's a person. I thought that was actually a really kind of spin I wasn't prepared for as well. But no, I think. Back to your question about refugees, I think they had the perfect amount starting, and where they were able to wrap up, at least they still had 4.
They got redshirted too early there. Brian, how did you think the companions worked in this storyline? Did we get enough? Or go ahead.
Well, poor Ryan didn't seem like he had a whole lot to do in this episode.
No.
And the other 2 were seemed like they're just primarily cheerleading the others on, trying to keep their hopes up. But at the same time, that's probably what they would be doing in that situation. Plus, how many here found it ironic that the character they finally get hitting on Graham is played by Julie Graham?
I did not know that, but okay.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she played in the Sarah Jane Adventures. I believe she played in Goodbye, Sarah Jane Smith. I can't remember. Okay. Yeah. It was like the season 4 finale, something like that. I can't remember the exact name of her character, but that's
I knew she looked familiar, but I wasn't sure if it was just from some other BBC item that I've seen.
Yeah. But other than that, I think they did the best they had with the time they got. You got to remember, you've got a lot of people to focus on. Ryan, they kind of took him out of the way, but they've done that before where they've had to, take a character out of the way so they can focus more on the others. So maybe he's going to have more to do in this, finale, coming up. So,
wow, and then I'm just really excited about the. I just want Sunday to be now. To tell you the truth, speaking of Sunday being now, we've got a commercial break. Yep, I hate my segues too. So when we return to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, we're going to be wrapping up our discussion and our review of Ascension of the Cybermen, and I'll finally get Koshamis' name right with the right characters. And then I'm sure people have been typing it away, going, "Christian, what is wrong with you? Did you really watch the show?" It's like, yes, I did. I'm just having a brain. You know what? When we return, please continue to become part of the legend.
Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish.
Santa, if there's one thing I want for Christmas more than anything, it's someone to spend Christmas with. Someone who really wants me to be there.
Head to the mountains of East Tennessee with romance author Jenna Hart for a Christmas writer's workshop. Since her mother passed after a long illness, Jenna has had one wish. She doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. Meeting Niccolo Maldini, cover model and actor, could make more than Jenna's Christmas wish come true. Unless Ember, Niccolo's ex-girlfriend, does something crazy to stop them from being together. It's a mountain Christmas romance you won't want to miss in Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish. Now on Amazon.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final part of this episode of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show, reviewing Ascension of the Cybermen. And I'm just going to give my team a warning right now. If I ever do something stupid by getting somebody's name wrong in the show, could you please do it a little bit earlier so I don't get hate mail throughout the episode? Because I know it's coming. I know people are going to be writing in or typing on their Facebook. Christian, are you okay? Did you actually watch the episode, or are you just reading it on Wikipedia or something like that? It's just like,
for the YouTube feed, you can see exactly when I turned my head, looked down at my phone, and was trying to figure out how to spell his name and what the lone Cyberman's name was. I couldn't remember Ashad, but anyway.
Ashad. Okay, guys, you don't have to keep writing. You're fine. I've got it all figured out here. Now, I do apologize. We put up the Traveling TARDIS poll a little bit late in the game. We do have a little bit of a deadly catch called a soak. We soaked it for one day, and unfortunately, we only had like 27 people do it, but we're still getting a lot of people voting. But on the very good, what percentage, Brian, do you think people gave as far as Ascension of Cybermen with 27 votes?
Oh, be optimistic and say 90%.
90%. Melanie, what do you think they gave him?
Considering that a lot of people voted, I'm going to go upwards of 75%.
75. And Mackenzie?
I'm going to go with 80%.
80%. Mackenzie would be the closest to the pin. 79% said it rated it very good out of the 27 people who voted. And I'll make sure next time when we do the finale, I put out the poll a lot sooner. So I apologize, folks. That's just me being slow there. So not a bad episode. Not a bad episode at all there. Did anybody have any challenges about the episode that we haven't addressed talking about this, or things that were like, you know what, I didn't get to this point. I didn't get to mention what I wanted to mention during the show, but this is what I had a challenge with in the episode. One
small one.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, so I might be off, so I have to go back and watch it again. But I do remember that once they were on the ship, after the fact, they realized, oh, this is a troop carrier, blah, 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 blah. And all of my sci-fi-ness were like, you should know what, if you're a refugee, and you're fleeing from a specific, vessels or people or bad guys, whatever, I would almost assume that they would have been able to recognize from the outside what ship that was. But I don't know if they did know that and they were just going for it anyway, or that little bit of surprise made me kind of go, really? I don't know. Maybe it was just the ship was blasted into oblivion, and I mean, I had no problem when they said we're going to get rid of life support and we're going to cut everything and we're going to go ahead and aim for this ship into that needle, that hole in that needle. We're going to land it, and I'm going, you know what? Do it, baby. We can do this. I can suspend disbelief for this one. But that part just kind of made me go, with knowing how many hundreds of levels of Cybermen they were on, I was just kind of like, you guys don't. I would have just assumed that they would have known what a troop carrying vessel might have looked like. Just that, and then, I mean, that's a really, really weird nuance for me. Being sci-fi nerd, of knowing like every Battleship Galactica vessel and old school and every Star Wars vessel, and I can tell you all the different types of troop class, all those kind of things, and just going, okay. So that was mine. Sorry.
No worries.
Stopping.
But the real question about this episode and the real question about this show that needs to be addressed, because if we don't ask it, we're not doing our job. Mackenzie. Who's Brennan?
That is Razalon, is my theory.
There
was, and this is the reason why I'm thinking this is why. We had, last time we saw Razalon, the 12th Doctor had kicked him off of Gallifrey, and he was excluded. So we know that was more than likely a while ago. The other thing that was, if you looked at the credits, which I caught this right at the end, I don't normally follow the credits, but this particular time I was looking at them and I noticed that the actor who was playing Kushamas was also credited to play the older, and I completely forgot his name. I was going to say Bernard, but I know that's not correct. He was the same actor. So going on that, it also happened that Mandip accidentally put a photograph up on Instagram and then deleted it. But I screenshot because I happened to be on there at the same time, and I'm like, oh, so I went back without spoiling anything. If people wanted to have an idea of what her photograph was and you didn't get to see it, go back to Classic Who, particularly the Revenge of the Cybermen during the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, and you're going to get a little bit more idea of where we're going in this next episode.
Mm-hmm. Brian, same question. Who do you think Brandon is? Who do you think that Brandon baby is? Baby.
Got me. I'm not kidding. I've been trying to stay blissfully in the dark for this season, so I couldn't really take a guess at it offhand, but I know it's going to get paid off in the final episode. But the character of Brendan, that's right, that was his name, Brendan.
Yeah.
Yeah, him being Coach Sharmus, I could see it because when you kept asking Coach Sharmus questions, he goes, I've been here a very long time and things like that. So I'm wondering if that baby that got dumped there, who became, grew up to be Brendan, was a Time Lord of some type. Plus the fact that he fell off the Broadchurch cliffs and then suddenly he pops back up. I think that is the same cliffs. They do reuse them quite a bit.
That wasn't the only
poor
Easter
Danny.
But the one question that perplexes me about that whole thing, he falls off the cliff backwards, right? Head facing the water. Yet when they come running up to him, his head's facing the cliffs and his feet's facing the water.
Yeah.
It's like, did he do a half gainer on the way down? What happened?
Yes.
It's like, so my guess is it somehow tried to space Moses Coach Sharmus. So,
but the thing is, if he is Rassilon, he fell, but he didn't regenerate. If he's a Time Lord, he didn't change his appearance. So that kind of puts it into a weird place. If that is supposedly the rumor there. Melanie, who's Brandon? Who's that baby?
Okay, I don't know who Brandon is, but I think your original thing was where we're headed or whatnot. So I'm like Brian, I like to stay blissfully in the dark, but when it comes to spoilers, I don't follow them. I don't seek them out. If someone's going to start talking them, I take my headphones off and I unplug my, I go on mute. I think, based on the fact that I don't know, the one thing that the Master had said was that everything was a lie. And I remember, if I remember correctly, I remember Time Lords and Gallifreyans are different, if I'm remembering all the canons correctly. And that I remember at some point, the Eighth Doctor had said that his mother was half human. So if all of the human race has been going to Coach Sharmus and he's been shoving them in a portal that apparently goes right to Gallifrey, could it be that all of Gallifreyans are really human and that eventually they look into the eye of harmony or whatnot and they become Time Lords, and then that's when they get their two hearts and all that kind of fun stuff. So I almost wonder if that's what the whole Master thing was saying, everything's a lie, is actually they're human. They're actually a backwards way of being human. So that was my little thing that I kind of extrapolated while watching the end of the show. So could Brandon be Rassilon? Maybe maybe Brandon's actually Rassilon, who's actually Coach Sharmus, who's apparently started all of Gallifrey, and he's been seeding it with humans. Maybe, yeah. That's my guess. Good as any.
One of the concerns that I have, Brian, is if this is supposed to be the origins of Gallifrey and the Time Lords. I'm harking back, and if anybody understands what I'm talking about, the Cartmel master plan. And even Andrew Cartmel was kind of taken aback and saying, listen, there's a reason why the character is called Doctor Who. And this is actually an interview that I had with Andrew, and I actually talked to him personally about this. And he goes, if we give too much away about the Doctor, then the show's over. It should be mysterious. It should be aloof. The character should not have a defining moment, and that's why they kind of held back on the master plan, including when they did Silver Nemesis, which I brought up, which is a Cybermen episode. That if you give too much away, then what's the point? Then we know too much about the Doctor. The Doctor has to be an enigma. Thinking on that note, if anybody wants to jump in on that case, what would you say to that, Brian?
Well, yeah, I agree with you, because what little we do know about the Doctor, we've learned over the course of going on, let me see, 57 years coming up. So while we've gotten tiny little bits of insight into his character, it's taken us a long time just to get that much. And I think if they reveal too much, like we find out his real name was like Fred, that's going to be kind of a downer.
That's Romana's real name.
I love that, Fred.
Fred.
Yeah, so
it's either Romana or Fred.
I'm hoping they leave it, vague like they have, And Chibnall, like I said, he is a student of the classic era, so I don't think he's going to give away too much. I wouldn't be too concerned that he'd go down that road.
I'm hoping that, and that's the scary part. And I'm just thinking, if this is supposed to be everything changes, then would that mean that we're going to know a lot more about Gallifrey than we should? I kind of liked it that it was a mysterious planet, and then there were kind of concepts of things that come out, because my mind is racing. Also, Big Finish jumps in, Lung Barrow jumps in, the Trial of the Valyar jumps in. I mean, now we got Time Tots, and the Doctor actually confessing that he doesn't remember where he came from in that episode. I mean, a lot. It's such, because of the history and such, it's so much to consume, and because the word canon doesn't seem to register too much in Doctor Who nowadays, because we can say anything and change it. I'm really worried that if we go in the wrong direction, I think Chibnall either is going to be one of the best showrunners that we've had, or if he takes in the wrong direction, he's going to be taking in a direction that may make Whovians feel uncomfortable. And I'm hoping he's really worked this out. I like to think he does. Anybody have any last-minute thoughts about the episode before I reveal my number? No.
How many people caught the oops that Graham made when he was talking, and they were opening up the place before they saw all the Cybermen inside? It's like,
yeah.
I'm.
Well, let me let the audience know, because we're at the time, but yes, I gave it an 8 for all the reasons that I've mentioned, for all the questions I brought up. But I really just can't wait until Sunday there, folks. And speaking of which, Sunday we are out of time. We'll be reviewing the last episode of the series.